sports, games are pretty big thematic when it comes to anime. It's a wide scope and it makes for some pretty interesting stories since it's a system with rules and you get to see the characters react to them and sometimes even try to bend them. From board games to card games and everything in between. So I decided to list 10 of my favorite game-related anime in a way that makes the most sense. Hopefully you get to try them out because they are a fantastic watch. But before we get in, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Speaking of games, this video is sponsored by Elsword 2. If you don't know, Elsword is an anime action MMORPG with comic-like attribute, a vast lore, incredible world building, and a giant variety of fighting style. You start by picking between 12 different characters, each of them having individually 6 extra subclasses. I decided to play Luciel, cause who doesn't want a Lolly and a Sebastian combo? Add to this a complex quest system with a giant world map, it leaves for so much to explore. Quests are usually pretty simple at first. Head into a dungeon, go through mobs of enemies, find a boss, kick its arse into next Sunday, and get your rewards. The combat is so satisfying even with the basic class, it's so easy to chain and link combos. I started punching enemy with loot and switched to CL //, salvo of bullets, kick in the awakening mode, and boom, get bitch slapped down. The game is free to play, so I recommend it for people looking into an intricate and well-developed time sink. Don't lie to me, we all have a game like that. And if you don't, why not give this one a try? You'll find links in the description down below, but for now, let's cover those 10 games anime. Let's go! Number 10, Fastest Finger First. Our journey begins with one of the currently airing anime. Fastest Finger First, while it sounds like the title of a hentai, is actually about a group of students who take on trivia questions. It's a quiz club that's all about hitting the buzzer first. Honestly, it's only missing Steve Harvey to put it at number 1, but since he's not in there, we'll have to settle with number 10. The show just came out this summer, not all episodes are out at the moment, but if you pride yourself with having a vast but useless kind of knowledge, this might be something worth considering. I must say, however, beyond the trivia part, the show isn't quite all that challenging. Characters are kinda flat, and it's not quite a revelation of an anime, but if you've drained everything else, I'd still try it out.
かつてあったことをご存知だろうか。それはまさしく競い合うクイズの世界。今でも高校生クイズという。それっていわゆる何があってもおかしくないってことじゃん。
何言ってんだよ。あくまでも生徒会の。やっぱ何があってもおかしくないよね。
Number 9, Phantasy Star Online 2 The Animation. I didn't want to put any video game adaptation because it would mud the point of my list. At the same time, everyone has heard about Sword Art Online, Overlord, and Log Horizon, so going into video game was also an exhausted topic. That's where I found the perfect balance of Phantasy Star Online. Mind you, a lot of people will tell you this anime is generic at best, and if it wasn't for my personal bias, I might agree too, but I spent my youth playing Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 on GameCube, and I loved that game. So when they made an anime about it, I was hyped. The plot is about a new game hitting the market, and a student council starts playing it to see the community aspect of the game. Of course, that includes the obligatory hot spring episode that every smutty anime who respects itself has. But beyond that, I mean, it's a bit out of pure nostalgia, so let's move on.
いや、じゃあそっちは露天風呂で PSO2 か？まあね。でも悪い。今夜はクエスト無理だ。は？なんでだよ。
はい、ストレート。
げ、また早乙女の勝ちかよ。
さすがメアリちゃん、強すぎ。
Number 8, Kakegurui. Another anime from the current season. If you've been following what's new around, Kakegurui is pretty hyped at being a disturbing kind of anime about gambling. The whole show focuses around a coward who, after losing all his earning, becomes the life slave of the biggest pimp around the block, Mary. One day, a transfer student comes in and she whips Mary's ass because, let's be honest, she's mentally insane. The anime does an incredible job at showing off the perversion that revolves around gambling, and it is without a doubt one of the strongest shows this season. If you're interested in gambling, originally we only had the anime Rio to go about the casino aspect, but with Kakegurui, now we definitely have a great representation of that universe. Don't let number 8 fool you, it's a pretty stellar anime.
面白い。好きよ、そういうの。次は2枚掛けでお願いします。
哟，斗神来了。
叶秋，你来了，坐。 有什么话就说吧。
Number 7. I am so sorry I'm gonna butcher the name. Quanzi Gaoxiao. As a big fan of esports, when they announced that this story would get an anime adaptation, I was psyched. The story is about a professional top-tier player in the online game called Glory, who got kicked off his team. Forced to retire, he decides to start working in a tiny internet cafe, where he hears that Glory just launched another server. Starting from scratch with only his experience behind him, the battle god decides to get back into it. Of course, his prowess catches the eyes of the community and is soon seeked out by everyone. This anime is a Chinese anime, meaning that the dub is also in Chinese, with Japanese subtitles and English subtitles over that, but if that doesn't stop you, it's a show I dearly advertise.
荣耀还真受欢迎。
こないだの社会のテストで8点しか取れなくってさ、お小遣い止められてんだ。お、これなんかいいんじゃねえか?
Number 6. Hikaru no Go. Hikaru no Go is a pretty old anime from the early 2001 era. It's the story of a 6th grader who finds a dusty Go board in his grandpa's attic. That board is possessed by the spirit of an ancient Go champion. By playing through Hikaru, the spirits get a chance to play the game once more, but he is surprisingly matched up against a prodigy of the current time. The anime turns the board game in a very compelling and competitive battle of wits, and it reminded me of the early days when I used to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! And where Yami would take over to win every battles. You kind of expect the outcome, but it is so masterfully crafted, it's a blast anyway. Check it out, you might like it.
対局相手を探してるの? うん、いいよ。僕打つよ。あ、でもこの子。
それより君、ここはどこなんだ?
これよりこの状況をご説明させていただきます。ご清聴のほどよろしくお願いいたします。
Number 5. Death Parade. Death Parade was the hype of 2015. With good reasons, the show was outstanding. Based on a similar title called Death Billiards, the story is about a bar set in the middle of nowhere. People get to it and are forced to play a variety of games from billiards to throwing darts. In episode 1, for example, a husband and wife are pit against each other in a game of darts. The winner takes an elevator and the loser takes a different one. This anime is quite metaphorical and leaves a lot to interpretation. One might think they're stuck in limbo and the elevator leads to either heaven or hell. Or one elevator brings someone back to life and the other dies. It's a wonderful psychological thriller that I recommend to everyone, newcomers or not.
私は君のことを愛していたのに。
私だって、あなた誤解してるわ。
嘘をつくんじゃない。
嘘じゃないわ、本当よ。
どうするもこうするもね。俺は1試合で切り上げるって言ってんだ。デスマッチもクソもねえんだよ。話にもならねえ。
Number 4. Oh, aren't you on a treat for this one? Ultimate Survivor Kaiji. Yes, the art style is quite unusual, but if you can't get over it, you'll be in for such a good time. This anime is really down to earth and almost built on ill faith. The story is about Kaiji, an everyday scrub who, after a special event, gets invited on a ship. On that boat, there's a rock, paper, scissors gambling tournament where people bet money they don't have to try and make it big. Kaiji has a god-awful luck, but he's great at thinking on the spot and outside of the box. If you've seen a ton of different shows, this will feel like a breath of fresh air. I vouch for this anime with all my heart. You will like it. Just be warned, it gets pretty twisted at some point and there's even people who die, but good luck with it.
2つ目のほつれは、いざ勝負をしようとした時、お前が何の躊躇もなく1枚のカードを手にしたことだ。最後に使う。
元気だったか。 レイ。
Number 3. Sangatsu no Lion. Do you know about shogi? The game in the West is mostly known as chess. It's slightly differently played, but it harbored the same spirit in its core. You have a board with 20 pieces each. Every single one has its purpose, and you probably want to lose as few as possible in every matches. Sangatsu no Lion is a story built on a professional elite shogi player who had to move to Tokyo. His loneliness was sucking him in until he met with 3 sisters that, despite their life tragedies, still find the strength to smile and go through every day. Currently, there's only 22 episodes out, but this upcoming fall, the anime is going to get a 2nd season, and it's just the right time to start watching the show.
好きだったから。だからといってカレーは。レイ君どうしたの？寒い？え？きっと恐ろしく頭のいい人よ。どんな人かしら。
Number 2, No Game, No Life. I think out of this list, No Game, No Life is the most famous and renowned title, and I won't argue, it's well deserving of it. It fits the thematic the best, and if you're into any type of games, this show will sweep you off your feet. But in case you don't know this anime, the story is about Sora and Shiro, two siblings who get transported in a new world. In that world, everything is decided by playing games. No violence, you just whip out your deck of cards. And you play a game of blackjack, or you play backgammon, or hangman, with the letters, not the jittery corpse. Visuals are stunning, characters think outside of the box, and I'm a sucker for that kind of anime. Try it out, you won't be disappointing for sure.
そして10、みんな仲良くプレイしましょう。
あ？おい！
また会えること。1、2、3、4。
なんだ？ジャージ？
てか何あのベルト。
And finally, number 1, Chihaya Furu. Let's wrap it all up with this anime. I think it's important to preface this with the fact that this show is not meant for everyone. The game played in this series is called Karuta. It's a Japanese type of game where the verse of a poem is written on a bunch of cards, and someone reads the first part of the poem, but you gotta find the matching bits on the card available. It's quite intricate, but it's also kind of cultural. Beyond that, I believe the anime does a great job at depicting a passion for sports, while mixing drama and slice-of-life events with a great balance. The visuals are also gorgeous, as you'd expect from any anime made by Madhouse. But yeah, if you're looking for a complete adventure about card games, and you haven't watched one since Yu-Gi-Oh!, maybe this anime can rekindle your love for them.
ごめんな一丁らを。太一！明日の服なくなっちゃった。
何百人一首じゃん。綾瀬さんできるんか？
So, did anything cut your eyes in this list? If that's not the case, you can always check out the other top 10s anime list I did. There's bound to be something in there for you. But if nothing can satisfy you, you can always check out Elsword. While you were watching this top 10, I got my characters to max level. Wanted to show you some of different playstyle. That's me kicking butts with Ara. But if you just want a straight up powerhouse that does badass attacks, you can always try Raven. There's also a new character they added recently called Ein, just in time for Elsword Season 2. I wanted to mention this game to you all, cause a lot of you seem to enjoy gaming and anime, and this MMORPG seemed like it was right in line with what I thought you could appreciate. The game's also free to play, so if it's not for you, no harm's done. I played countless hours and felt like sharing the love. Again, links in the description. Sports games are pretty big thematic when it comes to anime. It's a wide scope and it makes for some pretty interesting stories since it's a system with rules and you get to see the characters react to them and sometimes even try to bend them. From board games to card games and everything in between. So I decided to list 10 of my favorite game-related anime in a way that makes the most sense. Hopefully you get to try them out because they are a fantastic watch. But before we get in, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Speaking of games, this video is sponsored by Elsword 2. If you don't know, Elsword is an anime action MMORPG with comic-like attribute, a vast lore, incredible world building, and a giant variety of fighting style. You start by picking between 12 different characters, each of them having individually 6 extra subclasses. I decided to play Luciel, cause who doesn't want a Lolly and a Sebastian combo? Add to this a complex quest system with a giant world map, it leaves for so much to explore. Quests are usually pretty simple at first. Head into a dungeon, go through mobs of enemies, find a boss, kick its arse into next Sunday, and get your rewards. The combat is so satisfying even with the basic class, it's so easy to chain and link combos. I started punching enemy with loot and switched to CL ///, salvo with bullets, kick in the awakening mode, and boom, get bitch slapped down.